first, this is the truer down the line view. So really toward the target. And you can quickly see that your swing plane is quite outward, into out. Yep. Your cleaver speed came out as 105 miles per hour, or about 106. Elite man's average here, this line shows the elite man's average, which is about 110, 111. So you're about 5 miles per hour short. And in terms of swing time, from the beginning of the backswing to impact, it takes about 1,000 milliseconds, about 1 second, which is close to man's average. But I want to see a bit shorter swing time, so that means you have to speed up the backswing a bit more. Okay. Now, and then let's go to the top view here. So because when we aligned it along the target line, you saw that the club head was moving into out quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So actually, this rectangle shows the swing plane, okay, which is calculated from the club head motion. It's outward, yep, into out quite a bit. So it's about 9 degrees outward. And then this is a smaller rectangle here. This is the hand motion plane. And your hand motion plane is also close to 10 degrees outward. So both are outward, although they are parallel to each other, but both are quite outward, because you have tendency of lifting this up and then intentionally shallowing here quite a bit. So you have a lot of layoff toward the end of the backswing. Now, so let's align everything along the swing plane here. So this straight line is your swing plane. And then what happens is that during the backswing, you see your club head path here is going way away from the swing plane. Mm-hmm. But actually, if we look at this along the target line here, even here, without adjusting the direction, still your club head is going quite outward here. So in other words, above the swing plane here. Right. So you tend to lift the club head intentionally, and then try to have a lot of shallowing at the top here. Yeah. So actually here, the club head stays quite close to the swing plane here. So we can see that in this view. Mm-hmm. So this is a lot of layoff. Yeah. So when this happens, generally on the way down, the club head stays close to the swing plane, or it can go briefly below the swing plane here. Okay. And then you will end up with a really high club position, yeah, at the late follow through here, because you are shallowing too much and dropping this too much here, that you end up high up here. Gotcha. So this is coming from your swing pattern. Go high up, bring the club head high up, and then intentionally laying off quite a bit here. So this is something you have to probably you have to adjust. It's too much. Mm-hmm. So generally, the better pattern is you move the club head along the swing plane here. Right. And it has to come from more body-driven turn here, okay, instead of intentionally lifting this with your arm and then, gotcha, dropping here. Right. Okay. So then, if you have more body-driven backswing, then what happens is the club head starts moving along the swing plane here, goes slightly above in the nice looping motion, and then coming down here. But in your case, you're intentionally lifting this quite a bit, and then bring up, and then try to drop it on this side here. Yeah. And with that, because most of the motion is coming from this action here, you are not moving your body up and down that much here. Actually, right, up motion is okay, but you have to drop this is a body center of mass, okay, but you have to drop this more so that it goes below the initial position. This is the overall initial position, okay, but you have to go below that, and then go push after that. But it just stays above the initial position here. And because you are busy of doing this here. And also, if you look at the pelvis motion, It's interesting here. Initially, the pelvis actually goes toward the target here. Pelvis central mass goes toward target. That means you have a spinning motion here.
Okay.
Spinning means turning about the vertical axis. You're spinning this way here.
Okay.
And then while spinning, you are lifting the club head. So these two motions are not comparable. On one hand, you have the tendency of spinning. Normally, if you have spinning, then club head has to go flat.
Right.
But while your body is spinning, you are lifting your arms here.
Okay.
So, and then pelvis motion. In terms of pelvis rotation, you are rotating the pelvis close to men's average here. Elite men here means professional players, college players, and teaching professionals.
Okay.
So you're turning the pelvis. The red line here shows this rotation here.
Mm-hmm.
You're rotating the pelvis similar to the men's average here. And then I will change the scale here. So then at impact, you are not turning as much. It's because your swing plane is quite outward, so you don't need to turn the pelvis that much this way here.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so this is men's average, but you are not turning that much.
Okay.
And then, so you tend to initially, this is the translational motion of the pelvis. So red line shows a forward-backward motion. Green shows a toward target or away from the target. Blue line shows up and down motion.
Okay.
But initially, your pelvis is moving up here and then going down and going up here. But the main thing is this green line here. So normally, your pelvis has to go away from the target.
Right.
Go away from the target and then just return to the initial position and keep going toward the target. But because of your spinning motion, you have early pelvis motion toward the target. As you spin, the butt sticks out this way. And then after that, the pelvis again moves away and then going toward here. So this is a slight away or no away motion, toward the motion, away motion from here to here, and then toward the motion here. So it's because of your early spinning motion here. So instead of having early spinning motion of the body and then lifting here, what you have to do is a more body-driven backswing. So the legs are driving the backswing motion. With this as a throw, then the club will move along the swing plane. But what you are doing is you're spinning and then lifting the arms intentionally. So usually when the spinning occurs, then in the kinematic sequence we will see this, but let's go to the kinematic sequence. So this is the angular velocity of different body parts, rotational velocity of different body parts. Red line shows the pelvis rotation. And then, so from here, the red line peaks here in the backswing, and then it's slowing down here. But you see the peak angular velocity of the pelvis occurs here really early because you have early quick spinning motion here. And then green is the thorax, blue is the shoulders, but these are also reaching peak angular velocity about here during the backswing. Then this is the arms at the center here, and then the club later. But so you have, because of your early quick action, spinning action, you are reaching peak angular velocities early here. You have to delay this. So instead of early quick spinning action, you have to start the backswing with the leg. So you have to really turn your spine about the spine axis instead of turning about the vertical axis like this. So this is what's expected here based on your spinning motion here. And then X factor, this is a separation between the hips and shoulders, but so let me remove these two and then just look at the X factor pattern here. So this is X factor, which is a separation between the shoulder line and hip line here. So it shows what's happening within the trunk here. And then the X factor is 0 here because these two lines are parallel to each other. So no angle between these two. But then as the shoulders turn more than the hips, then now you have this separation here. And it keeps increasing up to this point. So you have a rapid increase in the X factor. But after this, the slope gets flat.
Right.
Then that means you have a change in motion here.
Okay.
And then, typically when this happens, the body turns almost together at this stage, and then you have more motion of the arms and club here. So instead of keep separating the shoulders and hips, you are turning the hips and shoulders as pretty much one unit, and then you have arm and the club motion predominantly here. But I want to see more continuous separation all the way to top of action here.
Gotcha.
And that this means you have early separation that is more coming from the upper body here. So it shows the upper body driven backswing.
Okay.
But you need to start the backswing with the more leg actions here. So keep everything here, and then if you use the legs and then the pelvis here, then you'll be able to see everything turning together. And then add the shoulder motion and the arm motion, everything. But when you start backswing with the early shoulder motion here, then you will have a early separation, but the later the slope decreases like this.
Mm-hmm.
So this shows a more upper body driven backswing. And then this is the kinematic sequence here, so which is based on the angular velocity, rotational velocity of the body. So the red line is the pelvis, and then green is thorax, and then blue is shoulders, and gray is the arms, and then this line is the club. So all showing rotational velocities. The pelvis, as I mentioned earlier, pelvis reaches peak angular velocity about here. It's quite early.
Yeah.
This has to be more toward the center of the backswing here.
Gotcha.
But you have a quick early spinning action. Mm-hmm. And then also the thorax and shoulders also reach peak angular velocity early. But as you see here, between the green line and this blue line, there's not much difference here. Mm-hmm. That means you're not using the mobility allowed in the shoulder that well. So the thorax can rotate, but in addition to that, you have a shoulder girdle motion allowed it here. So when you use the shoulder girdle motion well, then this green line and then blue line will separate more. So that means that here, more or less, your shoulders, your thorax and shoulders are rotating together. And then the arms here and the club here. And then the most important sequence in golf swing is the transition sequence, because it shows how well you are doing the backswing here, and then how well it is connected to the downswing. If you look at the transition sequence here, which is blown up here, most of the body parts are transitioning at the same time. And you have early transition of this green line, which is the thorax. Okay. And then the thorax first, and then pelvis, shoulders, and then arms all together here is clustered. Mm-hmm. Then you have the club here.
Gotcha.
So you have clustered the transitions of the body, and then the club here.
Yeah.
You need to separate these. So you have to have a longer transition phase, and also you have to separate these so that you have a well-sequenced transition from the backswing to downswing. So starting from the pelvis, central to peripheral sequence, or proximal to distal sequence. But as you turn this way and then change the direction, the pelvis turns first, then the thorax, shoulders, and arms, and the club sequentially.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that shows a good connection between the backswing and downswing. But you have clustered transitions here, and then the club later. And then in the downswing, the timing of peak angular velocities of the pelvis and the thorax, these are okay. Then the arms a bit after that, these are okay. Although you tend to reach a peak angular velocity of the shoulders a bit later, but this should be okay. Now the pink line here shows the wrist motion. And then when it's negative, then it means a cocking.
Okay.
And the positive value means uncocking. So here you have a transition from cocking to uncocking here. This is happening a bit early. So it's called the early release. So if you delay this, then the uncocking starts about here.
Gotcha.
So currently your uncocking starts about here, right at the top of backswing. But the uncocking, when you have good delayed release, then uncocking starts about here.
Okay.
And also, so going back and then coming down here, you see the club is, the shaft is bent. That means you are not weighting enough. While the club head is going that way, you're forcing the club to turn this way.
Gotcha.
So the club head is going there, and your handle is already turning this way. That creates the bending. So again, some instructors or many instructors teach you this is a good one, but actually this means a rush the downswing.
Gotcha.
So you have to wait until the backswing is completed, and have more time in the transition phase here with the well-separated transition, then start. But if it bends like this, that means before the backswing motion is actually completed, you're forcing it, in the downswing direction. So you're actually fighting your club here. So.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you are bringing everything down here. So that's why you have a severely into-out swing plane. In order to bring it that way, your elbow is here, your trail elbow is stuck, so you have to slide your pelvis to make a space here. Otherwise, your elbow will collide your body. So you have to slide the pelvis to make room so that your elbow can come forward. So the pelvis slide is because of the way you're moving your elbow. You are dropping this and then coming this way here. To avoid this collision, you have to slide the pelvis. And then let's see how you interact with the ground here. So this will probably show you a lot of things. The middle graph is the ground reaction forces. So the red line shows the combined ground reaction force. Blue is the force acting on the trail side, and then green is the force acting on the leader side here. And then so when the backswing starts here, the red line shows the peak value here during the backswing. So this is push, but this is happening way early, way too early. So this peak has to occur around here when the club is aligned horizontally here. This is when you normally have active push here.
Yeah.
And then, so throughout the, so here the middle one is the force, and then the bottom graph is called the moment arm. Moment arm is basically the separation between this red dot and this arrow here.
Okay.
The red dot is the whole body center of mass. So when the body is freely moving, then the center of mass serves as the center of rotation. So the red dot is the center of rotation, and then this force is acting to rotate the body. And then the separation between the center of mass and this ground reaction force, that's the moment arm here. So currently it's passing through the center of mass here, so the moment arm is 0, right? And then here, when the moment arm is the longest, as you can see, the force is passing the left side of the center of mass, and we have this separation. So we have this moment arm here. When you multiply the moment arm and the ground reaction force here, that gives the torque you generate in the frontal plane.
Gotcha.
So how much torque you generate by using the ground to promote the rotation in the frontal plane. And when this moment arm is short, then you will end up with the small torque here.
Gotcha.
And throughout the entire backswing, pretty much all the way here, you will see that the force is passing near the center of mass or center of rotation. That means you always have a fairly short moment arm here, so not much torque here. Okay? And then toward the end of the backswing, the inclination of force increases. So you have a bit longer moment time here. And then you have the longest moment time at this point here, most of the separation here.
Gotcha.
This is when the force is here. This line is the one body weight line here.
Okay.
So we are comparing the vertical force with the body weight. When the force is, when the ground reaction force is greater than body weight, then you have more push
Right.
using your leg.
Okay.
When the force is less than the body weight, normally when you just stand on the ground, then the ground reaction force and body weight should be equal to each other. But here you have a less force. That means you're not pushing as hard.
Gotcha.
It's called the unweighting. So in the vertical direction, we interact with the ground through active push and the unweighting here.
Okay.
And then when you have good push, then you will have good unweighting. So if you want to increase the level of interaction with the ground in the vertical direction, then you have to have active push and a lot of unweighting,
Okay.
repeating. But here, as you can see, after this push, unweighting is here, but unweighting is not much, and then also it's disconnected here.
Right.
Unweighting, and then it's going back to the body weight line, and then you're introducing the unweighting again. This means that the backswing and downswing are now well connected.
Gotcha.
If you have a well connected transition, then this unweighting and this unweighting will be combined. And then the peak unweighting occurs about here at the top of backswing. But this unweighting phase and this unweighting phase are not well connected. So that means you have too much backswing time. If you shorten the backswing, in other words, if you make the backswing faster, then these will be combined here. So you have good transition from backswing to downswing, but you have a hesitation here. And after that, you are introducing this unweighting again. But if you have a well-connected transition, then this will happen continuously. So you don't have to start the unweighting again here.
Gotcha.
So with this unweighting, you have this much push here. But this unweighting is a bit delayed. Now, going back to the moment time here, about here, when you have maximum unweighting, you have the longest moment time here. Because with the unweighting, the force inclines more, so you have the longest separation. With that, you have maximum torque generated here.
Gotcha.
But after that, moment time decreases rapidly. Because as you can see, the force is now acting in the away direction. The moment time is short here. It's quickly decreasing. And more importantly, toward the impact here. So about here, the center of mass, the force, the ground reaction force passes through the center of mass again. So you lose the momentum here, zero momentum, zero torque here. After that, the force goes to the other side. So when the force goes to the other side here, actually you're generating torque in the opposite direction.
Gotcha.
While the swing motion is going in the counterclockwise direction, your torque is clockwise. So it interferes with the rotational motion at this stage here.
Yeah.
So it's going negative quite a bit here. It's clockwise.
Yeah.
This is because you have unweighting here. You see, near the impact, you have unweighting here. The force is less than the body weight. This unweighting is not good.
Gotcha.
This is because you're pushing too hard here. When you push it too hard here, so then at impact you have unweighting. With unweighting, the torque acts in the opposite direction here,
Gotcha.
near the impact. So it has a detrimental effect
Okay.
on your rotational motion. So what should happen is you have to have a continuous unweighting here, reach unweighting peak early, and with that just a push, and then when you have this push here, from this good unweighting, then this peak is mainly coming from slowing down of the downward motion. So you are generating this force to slow down the downward motion. After that, the force decreases, but it doesn't go into this unweighting. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But because you don't have that much unweighting, and then you have harder push, then this is more coming from intentional jumping motion.
Right.
Instead of slowing down the downward motion, we have intention of jumping. So when that happens, you have unrating here.
Gotcha.
If this unrating is large here, then this push is mainly coming from slowing down the downward motion, so that you don't have this unrating at impact here. So basically, you have early quick action. This gives that the spinning is related to the early spinning motion, quick action, and then not so continuous unrating here.
Okay.
And then you have intentional push, almost having jumping like action here. Then you have a severe unrating at impact here. So the torque near the impact goes in the opposite direction.
Gotcha.
And then also, when you have spinning motion, then throughout most part of the backswing, the force stays more upright in the vertical direction.
Okay.
It doesn't show much inclination. So at this stage, once it goes through the center mass, then it has to show a good inclination here. But it still stays fairly upright. Because these two horizontal forces are canceled out pretty much.
Gotcha.
You're pushing the ground equally laterally, then these horizontal forces are pretty much canceled out. So then for the combined force, you don't have much horizontal component.
Okay.
Okay? So that's what's happening. And also, if we look at the force pattern here, this shows the forward-backward force. You're pushing the ground in the forward-backward direction. Again, this is the trail foot. This is the lead foot here. But these are almost symmetric, and they're also symmetric here.
Okay.
But here you have long period of zero force here in the forward-backward direction. You have too much time here. This is hesitation. Because your backswing is slow, so you have initial quick spinning motion. The spinning motion is coming from this forward-backward force.
Gotcha.
If you push the ground in forward-backward direction, you can easily spin.
Yeah.
So spinning is coming from this here. And then from the early quick spinning, and then after that, you don't have much action here.
Yeah.
So we have long period of zero force here. Then it switches, the direction switches. And then again, you have a fairly symmetric push here. But this means you have your backswing is slow.
Yeah.
So you had the early quick action. Then after that, pretty much you are not pushing the ground in the forward-backward direction much. You are just using the arms and the club and continue the backswing. That's why you have this phase here.
Got it.
So generally, what I see is that your backswing is more upper body driven. You're lifting this intentionally, but instead you have to have more one unit rotation initially, and then add the arm and club motion. So you have to have a really active backswing so that you have a large momentum here. Using that momentum, let the upper body keep rotating, and then you are turning the pelvis in the opposite direction.
Gotcha.
Then you have a continuous separation between the shoulders and the hips. So that provides better X factor pattern, and then you'll have good sequential transition. So now at this point, I'll show you another golfer here, which will inspire you quite a bit. This is Grant Waite, former PGA Tour player.
Mm-hmm.
So his club speed is close to 115 here. Mm-hmm. And his swing time is slightly less than 1,000 milliseconds. The top view, you will see that his swing plane is well aligned toward the target here, slightly inward.
Yeah.
Here, trajectory, mid-hand. Okay, so then this is the hand motion plane. Both are parallel to each other and fairly aligned along the swing plane. And then when you align this along the swing plane here, you will see that in the backswing, the club head is pretty much moving along the swing plane initially, and it goes slightly up, and the nice looping motion here. So at the top of backswing, still the club stays more or less parallel to the swing plane, mm-hmm. instead of dropping this quite a bit here. And then on the way down, the club head quickly moves toward the swing plane here, and then good planar motion here.
Right.
So this deviation reasonably balanced here. And then the pelvis motion, this one, the pelvis moves away from the target here initially. So from here to here, pelvis moves away from the target. See how his pelvis is moving here. Mm-hmm. instead of spinning, it's more moving this way here. And then the pelvis moves back here. It's called the recentering here.
Okay.
And then continuous motion toward the target here. Now, X factor here. It keeps increasing. The X factor keeps increasing all the way to the top of action here,
Yeah.
instead of having major change in the slope, right?
Right.
Kinematic sequence. So his peak pelvis angular velocity occurs about here, in the middle here. And then thorax, shoulders, better separated here. And then the arms are here, and the club here. And also in the transition, you will see that the transition phase is fairly long here with the good sequential transition here,
Right.
well spaced here. So pelvis, thorax, shoulders, arms, and then club. So from the proximal to a distal sequence or central to peripheral sequence. And then if you look at the wrist angular velocity here, so cocking, and then early part of downswing, he also shows a further increase in cocking angular velocity. So he keeps cocking. It's called the down cocking phase here. And then the transition from cocking to uncocking occurs about here. Okay. So the kinematic sequence pattern is really good here. And then the way he uses the ground, so his peak force occurs about here when the club is horizontal. And then he has good push from the trail side here, about here. And then after that, the longest momentum occurs here. So now the force is slightly inclined toward the target here. But he has this good separation here. So this is momentum and then a good amount of torque here.
Right.
And then, as you can see, his unweighting is continuous all the way to here. So this is the maximum unweighting. Okay, the force is the vertical force smallest here, and then the longest momentum here. Then he generates this torque early, a large torque early. This is elite man's average maximum, but at the beginning he's already generating that much torque. He maintains the torque around there, all the way to this point here. So in the early downswing phase, he's generating a good amount of torque. With that, he can accelerate the rotation. And then this push is similar to yours here in terms of magnitude here. This is a maximum ground reaction force. But after that, he does not show unweighting here. Still the force is above the body weight. It's because this peak is coming from slowing down or downward motion instead of jumping.
Right.
So if you look at his center of mass motion here, his center of mass goes below the initial position here because he lets the body drop. With that, when he pushes the ground, he will slow this downward motion, and then with that, he generates maximum force. But in your case, your center of mass does not come down that much here to the initial level, and then it's going up here. So you have a jumping-like action that gives this unweighting at impact, but in his case, no unweighting at impact.
Yeah.
So he has good interaction with the ground. And then if we look at his force pattern here, this phase here, instead of is staying at the zero for a while here, he's showing X-shaped crossing here.
Right.
So you have to delay these peaks here.
Yeah.
And then when the direction changes, you have to have a pretty much continuous switching like this in the X shape instead of they go to zero and they stay here for a while.
Okay.
So these things are, what we see here. And then you will be able to see the difference. So we're recording all these things. You'll be able to watch this again. Okay? Any questions?